What is good, YouTube? Kyle here from Wrestling with Fans. I got a fun video for you guys today. This was taken from my live stream this past Thursday. We tier ranked every single WWE Hell in a Cell match so far. It was a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Let's start with the very first Hell in a Cell match. It was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in your house, Bad Blood, October 1997. This is an instant. It's an S rating. I guess I'll go down the ratings. If you're not familiar with tier rankings, it's S, A, B, C, D, and then Because Reasons. Because Reasons is another one. That's just simple as it sounds, Because Reasons. But the first one, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, Bad Blood, they really knocked it out of the park on this very first Hell in a Cell match. So many awesome things. The match itself was great. Plus, the icing on the cake, it was the debut of Kane and Vince McMahon's epic call of his debut. The lights go out. The arena turns red. That's gotta be Kane. Just the iconic call of Vince McMahon was just absolutely amazing. Now to arguably the most infamous Hell in a Cell match of all time. King of the Ring, June 28th, 1998. It is The Undertaker versus Mankind. And I'm sure when you think of Hell in a Cell, when you hear the words Hell in a Cell, this is probably the first match that comes to mind. The infamous bump, Undertaker throwing Mankind off the top of the cell down to the announce table below. Mankind somehow managing to stay in the match, being stretched out, coming back, climbing up to the top of the cell. When you watch it back, the clips that were holding the cage to the cell started cracking and breaking under their feet. Taker goes for a short choke slam on Mankind, who goes through the cell to the ring below. Mick Foley is lucky to be alive after that match. Undertaker picking up the win. This is a S tier, and it is going to go above the Bad Blood match. It is going above the Bad Blood match. The next one on our list, WrestleMania 15, The Undertaker versus the Big Boss Man. Now, the match itself was just kind of Nothing too crazy about the match. However, what everybody remembers from this match is the post-match, where Undertaker proceeded to string the Big Boss Man up from a noose, hang him from the cell, and then raise the cell above the ring. Kayfabe killing the Big Boss Man, even though he would come back a few weeks later. This match has Because Reasons written all over it. Because the next matchup, No Way Out 2000, Triple H taking on Cactus Jack. This match was absolutely insane. This also saw the huge bump, Triple H back body drop, Cactus Jack up on top of the cell. The cell gave way for Cactus to fall to the ring below. However, this time that bump was planned. It's an S tier. It's not as good. I think it falls in third in line behind Undertaker and Mankind and Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Moving up next. Now, this was an interesting one. This was an interesting match. It was a six-way Armageddon match. Hell in a Cell. Kurt Angle defending the WWF Championship against some of the all-time greats. The who's who of Hall of Famers in this match, and soon-to-be Hall of Famers. Kurt Angle defending against The Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Triple H, and Mr. I Did It for The Rock himself, Rikishi. The match itself is kind of in the middle here. I think this is a B match. Triple H, Chris Jericho, Judgment Day, May 19th, 2002. To me, it's kind of a middle of the road. There's nothing really special that stands out. So I'm going to put it there middle of the road. Brock Lesnar defending the undisputed championship against the American Badass, The Undertaker. Now, these guys did have another Hell in a Cell match later down the line. This one, though, was way better. A young Brock, fresh in the company within his first year of being in the company. This is an A match. This is an A tier match. These two guys just beat the living hell out of each other. Worth going to check it. Triple H against Big Daddy Cool, Big Sexy himself, Kevin Nash, with Mick Foley as the special guest referee. Now, again, the star power alone you think would bump it, into like the B and C range, but the match itself was pretty boring. It's a D for me. It's not quite because reasons, but it's a D. It's in that lower tier. I did not enjoy the match very much. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels from Bad Blood 2004, June 13th, 2004. This is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the weakest matches these two guys had. And honestly, for me, it was kind of meh. I'm going to put it in the C tier. I think Jericho and Triple H was a little better, but it is definitely kind of middle of the road. It's the next match on this list. Batista taking on the Game Triple H. This is one of the better matches these two guys had. They had the long storyline with Evolution, the breakup, the WrestleMania match. Really great storytelling. They had great matches. This is an A for me, but it's not as good as Taker Lesnar. I think it falls in right behind that. Undertaker has had many great Hell in a Cell matches. This, unfortunately, was not one of them. I enjoyed their WrestleMania stuff much better. It's definitely on the low end of the C. I almost put it in D, but I'm going to leave it middle of the road C. A little underwhelming for my personal taste. Next is D-Generation X taking on Vincent Kennedy McMahon, Shane McMahon, and The Big Show. This was a pretty fun match. It was more of a story-driven match, and to me, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to put it in the B category. I'm going to put it just ahead of the Armageddon six-way match. It is a solid B. Worth checking out. It's a fun match. It was Batista against the Dead Man. What up, Dead? The Undertaker. It's going to go here in the middle, and I'm going to put it behind Triple H and Jericho, but just ahead of Triple H and Shawn Michaels. To me, it's a solid middle-of-the-road C Hell in a Cell match. Up next, SummerSlam 2008, August 17th, 2008, The Undertaker and Edge. This was a pretty good one. I really enjoyed this match, but the match itself was good. It's a solid B. The Undertaker and CM Punk. It was very underwhelming for me. Their match at WrestleMania 29 was immensely better, and that's a shame because these two are two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. To me, it's a D. The same can be said for the next match, Randy Orton and John Cena. It's also going in the D category, but I'm going to put it right here behind this one. However, the other Hell in a Cell match on that card, D-Generation X taking on the Legacy. This was a really good match. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, I think, really helped to put a spotlight on Cody and Ted. Real fun match to watch. I really, really enjoyed it. To me, it is going in the B category. We're going to leave it on the lower end of the B category. Moving on to Hell in a Cell, October 3rd, 2010. First up, Kane defending the World Heavyweight Championship against The Undertaker with Paul Bearer. One of the least memorable matches these two guys had. It is going in the D category, and it is going to the bottom of the D category. Sheamus and Randy Orton are going there, but they're going to go right here in the middle. An underwhelming match. I don't remember anything from it. This next match, WrestleMania 28, the end of an era. Triple H versus The Undertaker with the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. This is an S tier match. There is no question in my mind this is an S tier match. For me personally, one of my top 10 favorite WrestleMania matches ever. They told such an amazing story. Taker and Michaels just had a knockdown drag-out match. Triple H and Mick Foley had a knockdown drag-out match. Taker and Mankind's match was just a crazy, crazy bump fest with some insane spots. But to me, the end of an era is the best of them all. It is going in the S tier, and it is going at the very tippy top of the S tier. Will anything be better than that? Stay tuned to find out. Moving along, we have Hell in a Cell 2012, October 8th, 2012. CM Punk versus Ryback. These guys had two Hell in a Cell matches in consecutive years, and we're going to go and talk about them back to back. I did not like either of them. They're both going in the D category. I'll put the second one with Paul Heyman, only just the sight of Paul Heyman getting a cherry picker lift up to the top of the cell puts it slightly above it. Punk's title reign was very underwhelming because John Cena main evented more pay-per-views than CM Punk did when he was WWE champion. I am not a fan of Ryback. Haven't been a fan of his. Nothing personal against the guy. I'm just not a fan. Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan. Shawn Michaels is a special guest referee. Now, I initially had put this lower down, but I remember this was the whole story with the unification of the belts. I initially put this at a D. It's going to go middle of the road here in the C. It is probably the most middle of the road match. Now we are up to Hell in a Cell 2014. First up, John Cena and Randy Orton. Again, these guys had so many matches over the years. I'll put it at the top of the C category. I could even maybe put it as a low B. It is definitely by far the better of their two Hell in a Cell encounters, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. I initially ranked this a little lower. It's kind of going on the bottom end of the B tier. It was a fun match. These two had great chemistry in the ring, great chemistry as partners, great chemistry as opponents. I really enjoyed Seth and Dean a lot more than I originally remembered. Now we are up to 2015. Hell in a Cell 2015, October 25th. So with Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt. This was at the point where Roman Reigns just won everything. I originally ranked this on the low end of the C, but to me, it's going here in the middle of the road of the D. That's all I'm going to say. I don't really want to get on because I know I'll end up ranting on that one. Also from Hell in a Cell 2015, we have The Undertaker going one-on-one with Brock Lesnar. This is an A match. It's not as, I don't think it's as good as their first one. It's an A match. These guys just beat the crap out of each other. I'll just leave it at that. Go watch the match. Great match. One of the better Hell in a Cell matches. I can't say the same for The Undertaker's next Hell in a Cell match, which took place at WrestleMania 32 against Shane McMahon. I wasn't a fan of the story going into this with Vince and Shane and Undertaker kind of sort of turning heel to be Vince's enforcer muscle kind of guy. I didn't really enjoy the match. You know, Shane's bump off the cell is crazy because that's just what Shane McMahon does. But overall, the match is probably the most middle of the road. I'll kind of put it right in here in the middle of C. It's very middle of the road. I just wasn't a fan. Hell in a Cell 26, Roman Reigns and Rusev. It's going to go here in the lower end of the D. We'll just leave it at that. Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins also had a match. Also underwhelming. It's also going to the D category. I just did not enjoy the match. I love both of those guys. I've loved everything else they've done. I did not like this. I think this match is a casualty of the forced Hell in a Cell pay-per-view every year. That is my honest opinion. Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title. I'm going to put it at the top of the B category. I was going to put it in the middle of the B, but in hindsight, when I'm kind of looking at all these others up here, to me, it is probably the best of the B category. Great match. Two of the all-time greatest women, currently and of all time. We'll start with Shane and Kaya. This is a Falls Count Anywhere match, but it's at Hell in a Cell. I don't know. I guess you can pin him on the outside of the ring, but in the cell. Again, Shane McMahon just does crazy stuff for the sake of doing crazy stuff. This is definitely going to the B category. I'm going to put it right here with Rollins and Ambrose. I think it's kind of in the lower echelon of the B, but still a really fun match to watch. The other match from Hell in a Cell 2017. Usos versus The New Day. The first legitimate, in my opinion, even though they did have tag matches on Raw before, the first legitimate tag team Hell in a Cell match between two of the best tag teams. This match, it's S tier. It is going in the S tier. It is one of the best Hell in a Cell matches. I got to put it at the bottom of the S tier, though. The other four ahead of it, I liked more. Not by much. Not by much. I could argue that it's better than Cactus and Triple H. But something about that No Way Out match just sticks into my mind that it's just insanely good. We are now up to 2018. Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, September 16th, 2018. We've got two more matches here. Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. This is a solid B. I'm kind of putting this... You know what? We'll put it up here in the middle of the B category. It had some really innovative stuff. Some of the moves from hanging from the inside of the cell. Randy at that time when his feud with Jeff had an obsession with putting stuff in Jeff Hardy's ear gauges and twisting it and stretching it. Crazy. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun match for me to watch. I remember it vividly. Just the crazy stuff, stretching the ear. I think he had the screwdriver in his ear and was twisting it and pulling. Just really weird. But it was memorable. So to me, that bumps it up on the list. Here we have Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. It's going at the bottom of the D category. Mick Foley was the special guest referee. It goes at the bottom of the D category. This was Braun Strowman's Money in the Bank cash-in. So it's going there. I remember that match being bad. Moving on. We're getting into some good ones here. We got some good ones coming up. Hell in a Cell 2019. First up, we have Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks for the Raw Women's title. This is going up to the top of the B tier. I think it's a little bit better than Sasha and Charlotte. I don't quite think it's Brock Taker. Awesome match. You know, I guess as of now, the one of the best women's Hell in a Cell matches ever. There's 2 women's Hell in a Cell matches we've gone over so far. They're both in the high B category. And then the match that I was really regretting making this video, Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, Hell in a Cell 2019. It's going in because reason. Actually, you know what? No. Check that. Check that. It gets its own category. It is so bad it's getting its own category. Seth versus The Fiend is getting its own category. The worst Hell in a Cell match ever. Don't at me. Don't argue. It is the worst Hell in a Cell match ever. Ever, 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 ever. And we're going to leave it at that. You all know the match. You know what I'm talking about. I don't need to talk about it. It is the worst match. The worst Hell in a Cell match of all time. Moving along. And finally, the last 3 on the list here. Let's start with Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton. This was in the middle of their seemingly never-ending feud. It's going to the bottom of the C category. I just remember it being boring. I remember it not being very good. It's going in the B category. Sasha Banks and Bayley, it's going in the S category. I am going to put this above the New Day Usos, and I am going to put this above Cactus Jack. Bayley and Sasha Banks is the best women's Hell in a Cell match. It was from last year's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, just 8 months ago from when I'm recording this. Still fresh in my mind. At the time, I did critique it a little bit. I thought it was a tale of 2 matches, but I did go back and I rewatched it again. I liked it 10 times more now than I did then. To me, it is an S tier Hell in a Cell match. The final one on this list from last year's Hell in a Cell, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. It is going in the S tier as well. But where in the S tier does this go? It's going ahead of Bayley, Sasha, but not quite Shawn Michaels. I ranted and raved about how much I love this match. The story they told. It didn't have like the craziest spots or anything like that. It is arguably the most story, even more story driven than Undertaker, Triple H at WrestleMania. It was more story driven than that. It really solidified for me Roman's new heel character. I was buying it before the match, but during that match, he sold me 110% on this head of the table tribal chief. It is one of the best Hell in a Cell matches ever. So last year's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view had 2 of the best. This is my list. Let's run them down. They are in order. For my S tier, WrestleMania 28, end of an era, Undertaker versus Triple H with Shawn Michaels as special referee, followed up by King of the Ring, Undertaker versus Mankind. Right behind that, Bad Blood, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, the very first Hell in a Cell match. Then 2 from 2020's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, and then Bayley versus Sasha. Jumping back in the time machine to 02 for No Way Out, The New Day versus the Usos. My A team, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker, No Mercy. Vengeance, Batista versus Triple H. And finally, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. My B category, we've got Becky versus Sasha, Sasha versus Charlotte, DX versus the McMahons and Big Show, the Armageddon 6-Way, Angle, Austin, Rock, Taker, Triple H, and Rikishi. We got Cena, Punk, Del Rio right behind that, Orton and Jeff Hardy, followed by Taker and Edge, Ambrose Rollins, Shane, KO, and then DX versus Legacy, rounding out my B tier. For the C, we've got Orton, Cena, Triple H, Jericho, Batista, Taker, Shane, Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels as a special referee, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Orton, Drew versus Orton. And then in the D category, we got Seth and KO, Taker, Punk, Cena, Orton, Sheamus, Roman Bray, Triple H, and Kevin Nash with Mick Foley as the ref, We got Ryback and Paul Heyman versus CM Punk. Then we got Roman and Rusev, Punk versus Ryback, Taker versus Kane, and then Roman and Braun with Mick Foley as a referee. Because reasons, Undertaker and Big Boss Man from WrestleMania 15, and The Fiend versus Seth gets its own category all to itself. Guys, that is my Hell in a Cell tier ranking list. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you all for watching. Once again, my name is Kyle, and we'll see you guys in the next video.